love being part of your weekly routine. That's why today's subject is precisely routines. Today, Moises, Queralt and David Noguera are here to talk about some very special daily routines. You'll like the interview, you'll see. The wonderful Shamrock Vagabonds will fill our show with music and anecdotes. And before we finish, we'll laugh a little with Marc Broderick's videos and Matthew Tree remarks. Don't go too far because the Weekly Mag, hosted by Marcela Topor, is already starting.
Here we are again and welcome to the Weekly Mag. In today's show, we talk about a topic that affects us all: daily routines. I mean, who doesn't have a routine? It may seem an insignificant subject, but we are convinced that it's not. Otherwise, that quote from the American writer Amos Bronson Alcott would not be understood. He said, "The less routine, the more life." We are going to think about this topic with two people who look at daily routines from a quite unusual point of view. But first, I leave you with a brief glossary of some words that will appear throughout the interview.
The first word you need to pay attention to is a phrasal verb, to stick to. If you stick to something, you continue doing, using, or talking about it. If you stick to rules, you do what they say you must do. The second word is also a verb, to struggle. It means to make great efforts, to try hard to do something, even though other people or things may be making it difficult for you to succeed. One more concept, scenario. It is a predictive sequence of events. If you talk about a likely or possible scenario, you're talking about the way in which a situation may develop.
The less routine, the more life. This statement implies that routine has nothing to do with living. Our guests share routines that have little to do with those of most of us. They are members of two NGOs that work for collectives with serious health problems. They are Moises Queralt from Palhaços Sem Fronteiras, Clowns Without Borders, and David Noguera from Médicos Sem Fronteiras, Doctors Without Borders. So Moises and David, welcome to the Weekly Mag.
Thank you. Hello, thank you.
So tell me, how much routine do you have in your lives?
No, not a lot, I think. Well, in some kind of point of view, maybe, yes, we can have a little routine, but which is the no routine, I think.
Okay.
As a clown, at least.
I see. So you're used, no? Your routine is not having a routine.
Yes.
So life without routine, you think it's more interesting? Helps you be more creative, maybe?
Yeah, I think that yes, but maybe for me, I don't know, maybe it's personal, no? Everyone may have their own preferences, but for me, yes, in fact, I try to not have a routine. It's like my goal.
That's interesting. What about you, David?
Well, I mean, I do have a level of routine when it comes to family. I have two kids, so that obliges you to, to stick to some level of regularity. When it comes to work, I mean, yes, I work in an organized organization, so we have some procedures, we have some protocols. But it's true that we are a global organization. We respond to crises all around the world, and crisis, by definition, has a level of unpredictability. You cannot predict crises, natural disasters, or when conflicts are going to, burst. So, and I think that yes, to me, I believe that there's a kind of driver in my life looking for, I don't know, for sensations, for feeling, for, if you wish, a certain level of adventure. That makes that, I mean, that my job certainly has allowed me to live what I understand is a quite intense way of living. But above that, above the feelings, about my sensations, is more the certainty that we're doing something that is fundamentally right. No? I mean, I think that saving lives and trying to alleviate suffering of the most vulnerable populations, I think that's something that's a key driver in myself and in the organization.
Let's talk about NGOs. First of all, let's clarify the term. What is an NGO?
An NGO is a non-governmental organization, so in principle independent from any kind of political power or financial power or even religious. And well, basically you find a big range of activities from medical humanitarian NGOs. Some of them they do nutrition, some of them they do education. Basically, I mean, I would say that you can more or less divide them into emergency NGOs and more development, if you wish. And basically what I believe is in the vast majority of NGOs are entities that are able to group people who have a true willingness to support people who are going through tough moments.
How long have you been involved with with the NGOs you work with?
Me, since 2007, so 11 years right now. But Clowns Without Borders began the activity 25 years ago now, in 1993.
What's the history of this NGO?
Goal of Pallassos Sense Fronteres is to bring laughing to children, and not only children, in situations of after crises like wars or natural disasters, with the idea to bring them psychological support, because laughing is good for the body and for the mind, and it's proved that it helps a lot to change the point of view of the people who are suffering this kind of situation so hard sometimes.
What made you start with Pallassos Sense Fronteres? What made you join this NGO?
Well, I knew this NGO and I liked that since the day I heard about it, because it was, wow, it's a way to help the world, but doing what I do, because I mean, I'm not a doctor, I can't go there, no? But I was worried about what can I do. And when I heard about it, I said, one day I want to join them. And in 2007, there was an earthquake in Pisco, Peru, and the Doctors Without Borders were working there, and there's a psychology team from the doctors. They asked the help from Clowns Without Borders, and they said, hey, my friend of mine working there, can you put a team together for next week? And he asked me, and I say, okay, next Friday we'll go into Peru. And since then, I can't stop, of course.
What was the first experience like?
Whoa, it was great, hard, because you see the people in a very hard situation. The city, Pisco, was a poor zone, and all the city was like destroyed. So it was hard, but it was also good, because the people are always really grateful to you, no? They are, and you see that you are helping them. I mean, in this kind of work, sometimes, I don't know, other NGOs, the kind of work they do, maybe they don't know if it arrives, but when you are making this kind of work as a clown there, you see the results directly, no?
What about you, David? How long have you been involved with Pallassos Sense Fronteres, and what's your role in the NGO?
So I started back in 2001. After finishing my medical school, I went to Doctors Without Borders. I asked them, I want to join you. So they told me, okay, you have to have a couple of years of working experience, you have to have a master in tropical medicine. So I spent those 2 years, so finally I joined back in 2001. My first mission was in Somalia, Mogadishu. And after 3 or 4 weeks, I had a moment of epiphany, and I mean, because I fully understood, I understood what it meant to work back in those days. Somalia was still is, but it was a very hard context. We were the only medical NGO present, and I was running a cholera camp there. So I mean, we managed to treat and save the life of 800 people in Mogadishu. So that was extremely rewarding from a medical and personal perspective. Since then, I've done all kinds of things in this organization. I'm in the headquarters since more or less 10 years now. Currently, I'm for 2 years now, I'm the president of Doctors Without Borders in Spain. MSF started in France back in 1971. It's a joint venture of journalists and doctors, so that's why we feel very comfortable when we come to media, because basically what Doctors Without Borders does is unites the medical and humanitarian action together with an element of speaking out, of pointing fingers to the responsibles of crisis, because there's always a responsible. So we thought that this was the natural package. And we're trying to do our best in a very complex world and in a not the best political environment nowadays.
I see. You're used to seeing extreme situations in all the time, all over the world. So how do you think this has actually changed your lives?
Well, I think that it changes your life because after doing that kind of job, maybe you are more awareness, no? Because you are living here and you know that in the world there are terrible things happening, but okay, you are here. But when you are there in the field, not just seeing it in a screen,
On the
but
screen, yeah.
living with these people, it changes you a lot because okay, you feel useful because you're helping them at this time, but when you come back, what a bubble, no? Here,
Yes.
we have our problems, terrible problems also, but after that you want to go back to do this kind of job. No?
Does it make you appreciate more your life here?
Also, yes.
I would say I have a deep sense of privilege for being able to work in something that is my passion. Sometimes some people tend to believe that people who work in NGO, we are better than others, you know, people think we're better, nice people, and it's true, I mean, it's not true, sorry, we're exactly as nice or good people as any normal person. I mean, we're professional people that we do this, and this is a job and a passion. I have a deep sense of privilege because I don't know if this being in MSF now for 17 years has made me a better person, but certainly has made me as I am today. So it's allowed me to understand the world with a completely different perspective. And you mentioned, do I value more things here? Well, yes and no. I mean, one of the privileges of my job, for instance, when last August I was in Central African Republic, is to meet extraordinary people. Really my personal heroes, and I'm talking about doctors, nurses who are Central African from the country. They stay there, they struggle through peace and conflict, you know, and or you see families, when you see families of refugees, of displaced people, you have really touching stories of people that are true heroes that have crossed a continent with their families, you know, just to seek for a better life for them. So getting to meet these people is really a big privilege. I mean, we tend to portray Africa or humanitarian crisis as scenarios of a disaster and mortality is true, but in this kind of a scenario you see the worst and the best of people. So being able to try to help the people suffering the worst, but also working and engaging with people who are the best, represent the best values of humanity, that is an absolute privilege.
I would like you to give me some examples of these situations, but we are going to do that in the second part of the interview. In sports, routine and repetition is fundamental. For our portrait section, we wanted to learn more about the case of an elite sportswoman. Her name is Julia Reizengerova and she is Czech. Julia is considered one of the best young basketball players in Europe and she is currently playing for Spar City Lift Girona. Let's have a look.
I'm Julia Reizengerova and I'm a basketball player from Uni Girona. I'm 20 years old and I was playing in Czech basketball. But then I decided that I want to play a better league, a higher league. So I chose last year San Adria and then I chose Girona, yeah. But I'm still studying in Czech, so I'm still trying to stay in school and still trying to do both, like school and basketball. You wake up, you go practice, then you have lunch, you have to cook something, yeah. Then you have some free time, so I'm trying to learn in that free time. And then you go to another practice, you have dinner after and you go sleep, and that's going round and round, yeah. So that's more or less the same. They don't want me to be the best player right now, you know, they know I'm the youngest here and they know they want to try to practice with me and make me better, but still it's a pressure on myself. I'm doing it to myself alone, I guess. But yeah, a lot of people are expecting a lot from me and I hope I can show them one time that they could expect it. But yeah, it's also the feeling there that it could happen and I will not be that good. Like everybody was saying 2 years ago that I will be the best player at all the world. it can happen that it's not gonna be true. But yeah, you have to come with that. I'm a Czech girl and nobody takes really care about Czech Republic. So I was like, nothing can happen. Yeah, and then I saw the messages and my agent wrote me like, they drafted you. And I was like, what? Yeah, they drafted you to LA. And I was like, so what now? Like, I have to go there or what? Yeah, but unfortunately I had my back injury, so I couldn't go. And yeah, it was a kind of sad, but I was happy that I have some time to prepare myself on that I don't have to like rush in something that I don't really want to. I was happy about it, but I still knew that I'm not still that good to play in Women NBA, so I was happy that I don't have to go. But yeah, I'm happy about it, and I know that I have a possibility for 4 years now to go there. So we will see if I'm gonna take it, and I hope I will try 1 year or 2 years maybe there. We have a lot of people that more want to watch basketball from women's than from men's, but still I think more people want to see men's at action than girls, because still a lot of persons have it like women should be at home and take care about the home and not play sports, and basketball is starting to be a hard sport and a really contact sport. So I think it's because of that, yeah.
What will our guests answer to the mystery question? We'll find out in a few minutes.
Our guests today are Moises Queralt, member of the NGO Palhaços Senza Fronteiras, and David Noguera, president of Médicos Senza Fronteiras in Spain. And our collaborator today has already been in the program before. He's Gary Gibson, and he's going to help us get to know the world of NGOs a little bit better. Well, Gary, welcome in the first place, and tell us what interesting facts have you brought to us about NGOs?
Well, first of all, thanks Marcela, thanks for inviting me back again. Let me start by setting out some important information so that our viewers can get a clear idea of the whole phenomenon of NGOs. For example, 2 years ago there was a data collection campaign on NGOs around the world, and it was called NGO Facts and Stats, and the results are incredibly interesting. There are an estimated 10 million non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in the world. If NGOs were a country, they would have the 5th largest economy in the world. And
imagine.
It's an incredible amount of people. And nearly 1 in 3 people, so that's, in the world, actually donated to charity in 2015. I'm certainly one of them. I donated to charities. And 1 in 4 volunteered. That's pretty impressive, because it means that there are a lot of people who actually trust these organizations completely. Yes. 1 in 3 equals 2.4 billion people. I'll just put that in Catalan because billion is different in English. And that's 2,400 million people.
That's
1 in 4 equals 1.8 billion people. That is 1,800 million people. This data leads me to a kind of leading question. With these levels of support, how do you explain that some governments, for example, cause you problems? For example, especially, maybe this question would be very interesting for you, David, because I think like in certain region situations you have problems with helping to rescue immigrants for people with problems. Why is this?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, because sometimes governments are part of the problem and not part of the solution, So, I mean, for instance, in a conflict situation, you can understand that the government obviously is a main actor. And normally you have the government and the rebels. So if, for instance, as an NGO, we approach a conflict from a neutral perspective, so you want to work both sides, both will see you as enemy, if you wish, because you're going to be supporting the other. So sometimes, while we approach this as a neutrality principle, we work in both sides precisely because we don't take sides. But sometimes simply there's no option of dialogue. For instance, in Syria, we have never been allowed to work in the Assad control area. But while in the rebel side, yes, we have been able to work. We were used to this in conflict settings. I think that the most relevant thing is to see it happening in Europe, which I think is even more concerning. Europe's supposed to be this the big actor, big champion for human rights. And I think a clear example is the fact that how For instance, NGOs engaged in rescuing migrants in the Mediterranean have been systematically expelled, and today only one boat is left in the central route, maybe in the Spanish routadas, and that's because there's a political agenda, because they don't want uncomfortable witness, and because somehow our presence, I mean, any success of Doctors Without Borders implies a failure of humanity, a failure of government, you know. So why we have to rescue people in the Mediterranean is because the people who have this responsibility, this is the governments, are not doing their job properly. So they don't want us around. That's a pretty straightforward answer.
One other question, David, because something that's very, very obvious is that there's this kind of very right-wing trend where governments are increasingly, well, they have absolutely no sympathy whatsoever for migrants or the work that you do. Have you personally experienced any signs of this in your day-to-day work?
Yeah. I mean, we are aware that in some places we're losing support because people have bought this narrative that some people believe that in Doctors Without Borders we do human trafficking with migrants, and that we earn money doing that. While, for instance, yeah, I mean, and it makes no sense because, for instance, we renounced to any of European Union government funds for our work. So we renounced to 165 million euros in 5 years because we found it contradictory to criticize the European Union policies while taking the money. So we make our stand, we renounce to 165 million euros, and still we're being accused of doing business. So it's simply purely propaganda. We strictly stick to legal procedures. Everything we do is legislated, you know, we follow instructions from coordination bodies, and at the end of the day, there's a political agenda to push us out of this scenario. It's going to be up to the people to decide if this is the Europe they want or not. Yeah?
Legality, that was an interesting one, because I was just thinking that you have to work in countries where sometimes possibly you have to defy the law. Would you have to, maybe, for example, if you had to conduct an abortion in a country where abortion was illegal because the girl had been raped or because of another reason, congenital reason, for example, would you conduct the abortion?
I mean, depends on the context. I mean, we try to keep, to stick to legality, clearly. But sometimes we do break the law. But there's an exceptional situation when, as I said, some governments, as part of the program and the legislation is directly attacking people, you know. Then we feel there's a humanitarian imperative, and then there's a medical ethics. I mean, we always work under some frameworks, being the laws of the country, one of them, but also medical ethics is another of them, you know, and then the humanitarian mandate and the international humanitarian law. So we always follow legal frameworks. We don't make our own decisions. So. But sometimes, yeah, there's a level of contradiction, and then we always take the side of the patient.
Moises, I'd like to ask you about maybe the most difficult or extreme situations you've been in.
Wow.
So many, right?
Yes.
If you had to pick just one or two.
I don't know, maybe. One of the places that shocked me was Goma in Democratic Republic of Congo. I was there in 2009. It was 15 years after the genocide of Rwanda, but they were still with the same problem, not the same, but the refugee camps where I went, where there were people from Rwanda that escaped 15 years ago. And the situation in this place was really terrible. Goma is a city with a lot of chaos, a lot of armies, because it's in the border, and there's the Congolese army and the Rwanda army, but there are also the rebels, Hutu rebels, Tutsi rebels from both sides, the police from the city, and they were not being paid since 6 months ago. So they were also dangerous, the police in this city. And it was a situation really hard, no? Mm-hmm. At the same time, we went to the refugee camps, and most of the children, they were born there. So the reality was living in a camp since they were born. I mean, their parents arrived there 15 years ago, maybe. So for the children, it was normal to be there. Of course, they were impressed by the, whoa, clowns, what's that here? It was the first time that Clowns Without Borders went to this place. Then we've been there again. But it was really shocking, the situation of the city, you know, and The problem there, nobody really understands what was happening. They have the problem with coltan, you know, the mineral from the screens and all this, and a lot of governments there, and also blue helmets, and a lot of violence in the ambient.
I see. Well, your job is to make people laugh, no?
Yeah.
Is humor always understood in these complicated situations? I mean, you just mentioned the children who were born in camps. So,
Yes.
how did they react when they saw you and when you performed for them?
They used to react always good, because, well, the moment when we make the mission, maybe it's not just when the earthquake just was yesterday and we arrived, or maybe when the people from Syria arriving in the Greek islands, it wasn't just at the moment that they get off of the boat. It's important to make the mission at the correct moment. And normally, the normal situation is that they are really thankful. They say, what's that? For a break in the routine of their lives, which is being in a refugee camps, just watching the time
go by.
And they used to, maybe once we were in Cameroon because of the Central African Republic War, and we arrived there in some refugee camps. The people arrived 2 weeks earlier, and maybe it was the only time that we began the show, and the children were still a little like shocked. No, what's that? White guys, clowns, what's that? But in 10 minutes they make and they begin to laugh.
And David, why don't you share with us maybe one of the most extreme or difficult situations you found yourself in?
I think that, I mean, anytime you face, for instance, situations where sexual violence is used as a weapon of war, that's really touching. It's really something push you to the limits of what's bearable, you know. Seeing women, men, children rape as a weapon of war, I think is something that is very shocking. And then, and it happens to us that a lot of time our people, our teams that we send there, once they become fathers or mothers, they cannot work anymore in nutritional centers because it's impossible for them not to relate, you know, to their own children. So.
Yeah, it must be really tough. Well, and just to complete this interview, Gary, do you have another fact you want to share with us about
another
NGOs?
very interesting one too, because well, I work for Ramon Llull, and we have lots of support programs that work in Africa and South America. And I noticed that it's often girls who go, nutritionists, nurses, etc. And actually, a fact is that 75% of charity workers are women, but very few women have say management or leadership roles within charities. Now I'm sure charities are they believe in equal opportunities for both sexes, so how can this be explained?
I think it can...
Maybe more
I think no, because at the end of the day, NGOs are a reflection of our society. And again, people believe that we are made of a different nature or something. People, they believe, no, I could never do what you do. I mean, we get this kind, which is wrong. I mean, it's a wrong assumption. I think we have an issue. I mean, for instance, in MSF, we closely monitor those indicators, and we're doing okay. I mean, as we speak, we have a new general director who's a female taking over. That's the executive position #1 in our organization, and she's a female. And we have good indicators in terms of gender balance, but there's still a long way to go. And I think that, as you said, but for instance, in MSF, we have a particularity that makes us, I would say, stand above the average, because we are a medical organization, so most doctors and nurses are females, you know, so that's a push, a big driver for us. So we are happy to know that I think it's around 53% of our staff is female. In fact, we are okay in terms of senior positions. However, in our missions, and mostly with national staff, in the places we work, there we are in balance. But again, it's difficult in places where there's the social issue is there. It's difficult to find doctors or managers, you know, or accountants, because you don't have females that go to university then or to school. Then it's difficult.
Well, still a long way to go for equality. That's a good point. But we need to stop here. And I'd like to ask you, before we move on to the next section, which is called e-speakers, I want to ask you if you've ever been to Ireland.
No, I haven't.
No, but I'll be going there next June.
Okay.
Yes.
For a mission?
I have a meeting. Now I have a more boring institutional position, so I have an institutional meeting. So I have one in Dublin next June.
I see. Well, you know, we are quite keen on Ireland in this program, as we've got many collaborators from there. However, in today's e-speakers, we learn even more about that island. Let's watch Shane McCarran talking about his homeland.
My name's Shane and I'm from Belfast in Ireland. I'm 26 years old and I have been living in Barcelona for 2.5 years and I give private English classes. Ireland is an island in the west of Europe, has the Atlantic Ocean on one side and the Irish Sea on the other. And it's divided into two countries. So in the south you have the Republic of Ireland, which is its own independent country. And in the north you have Northern Ireland, which is still officially part of the United Kingdom. Kind of like a lot of people imagine, in that it's very green, a lot of cliffs and mountains and coast. And I think the most kind of memorable thing about Ireland is probably the people and the kind of sense of humour. And I hope the way that we make people feel welcome when they come to visit or they come to live. I would probably say anywhere on the west coast, maybe Galway or Donegal or Mayo. And the reason for that is at the west of Ireland you have the Atlantic Ocean. And so the landscape there is totally different. It's quite yellow and grey and rocky, and it has some quite peculiar and like very wild and kind of savage landscapes, but that are very beautiful. I would choose James Connolly. He was actually born in Edinburgh, but he was born to Irish parents and he spent a long period of his life in Ireland. So even though he was born in Scotland, most people consider him Irish. In the 1900s, he was one of the leading figures in organising the working classes in Dublin especially, at a time when there was a lot of poverty, a really high infant mortality rate, a lot of exploitation. And so he was very important in organising people into trade unions, into fighting for better conditions. Even though I would disagree with the way he went in the end, he became very nationalist and quite religious as well, but I still think he's a very important figure. Ireland isn't that famous for food. It's probably more famous for drinks like whiskey or Guinness, obviously. But I would probably recommend a fry, which is something you get more in the north of Ireland than the south. And it's something we have for breakfast, and it's essentially sausages, bacon, beans, tomato, egg, as well as potato bread or wheaten bread or soda bread, and usually with a big mug of tea or orange juice, especially at the weekend, and especially if you have a bit of a sore head after a few pints the night before. I think that's a lot of people's resolution. I think sometimes, depending on where you're from, it can be a bit of a shock at how brutal we can be with each other, laughing at each other and making jokes about each other. But it's the sense of humour that people have in Belfast or in Northern Ireland. Something that's interesting about Ireland in the context of Europe is that a lot of the very old kind of traditions and cultures are still very much alive and kept alive by older people and younger people. For example, like in many traditional bars that you go to, there's always traditional music, and it's done because it's a tradition, because people want to do it. It's not a performance exactly, it's more because it's what people do. So traditional music with the fiddle, with the pipes, with the accordion, with the whistle. I think that's something that we're quite lucky to have. That culture of live music always present. And as well you have, you know, the kind of ancient art and language and dance, all those things are kept alive as well.
I need to warn you that what's coming up might seem a bit strange. However, it turns out that it's one of the most successful moments of this show. I'm talking about the mystery question. And when we talk about the mystery question, I'm also talking about Marc Broderick.
The mystery
Welcome
man,
back.
you might say.
The mysterious man.
The mysterious man with the mysterious questions.
So, are you ready for this challenge?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it right here in front of you guys, okay? And you guys can grab one each. Now remember, there you go.
Please. No, please.
Now, I've spent a lot of time thinking about all of these questions. Myself and Santi, we've spent days and weeks, you know, coming up with, you know, great questions for you guys to answer. So, best of luck.
Thank you.
There's all kinds of things in here. Don't be scared.
Great.
Don't be scared. Nothing too crazy, I think.
Moises breaks the ice.
What I find here. What's the most embarrassing thing in your web history? Embarrassing.
If you want a minute to think about it, we can move on to this gentleman here, and then you can think about the answer. What about you, sir?
So it's, what's the worst song you like? Can you sing the chorus? No, that's the second part. It's not going to happen unless you want to lose all your audience, because I mean, it will be a. And let me give can I have some time also to think about the worst song?
No, that's not that complicated. Come on. Web history, he really has to go back and think about everything.
I think.
Less ketchup or something like that, no?
No, I don't think I went that bad. Oh, sorry.
Well, if David needs some time, let's give him
Yeah,
this time.
please.
Maybe after a few moments he remembers. Meanwhile, let's go to Gary.
Well, mine is, what's the latest white lie you told? This isn't exactly a white lie, but yesterday I have a neighbor and he's from Andalusia and he's called Francisco.
Okay.
And he's from Cordoba and he's been my neighbor for 18 years. I still don't understand him. So I just nod at him. I sometimes understand some words, but he's got a really, really strong Andalus accent. And yesterday we were in the lift and he told me a joke.
Okay.
And so I laughed.
But it wasn't that funny.
I didn't understand the word.
It was an uncomfortable laugh, no?
It was. And I
thought
for a moment he's going to ask me if I understood. And thankfully he didn't.
Well, next time you're in, you can tell him a joke in English and see does he laugh.
I will. You have to get my own back.
Maybe he was asking you to lend him some money?
It could have been. I mean, for all I know, yeah.
All right, we're back to you, sir. You've had your 3 minutes of stay of execution.
Okay, yes. Well, I have to say that I think that there's nothing embarrassing in my web history because I'm a real pure guy. But I have to confess that sometimes I went to YouTube and I listened to this song from Frozen. Libre soy, ta 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 ta. Is that enough embarrassing to answer the question? Let it go.
Let it go, that's it, let it go, okay.
I don't know, well, I don't know the lyrics in fact.
I think you're
but
taking
I
over
like
from
this
his
one.
question, actually. I think you're singing, he should be singing.
Yeah, his question inspired me.
Is it the same song?
No, it's not.
It's okay.
No, mine is not the same. I mean, if my child, he's 7, he's really keen on Despacito, so we get to have that soundtrack at home now, which is embarrassing. But about me, I would say that something that happened, you know, and I'm talking about this kind of 2 lives we have abroad in this context and here. I remember coming back with this Spanish show Operación Triunfo. The first edition was on, and it was a big success. And I thought, not even me, I could escape from singing some of the songs that of that TV show that now I have to regret, and yeah, it feels me. I have a point of embarrassment.
What was your favourite, David? Was it?
Well, I don't remember. I don't have a special passion, but I mean, I think I fell with all the thing of David Bisbal and David Bustamante. No? Yeah, I think I was somehow following that.
Thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you for being honest with us.
Thank you for the nice question.
Marc's questions are sometimes a bit, difficult, but anyway. I'd like to ask you before going about your next challenge with your NGOs.
We have some missions on the field right now. We have a team in Lebanon where we've been working with Palestinian refugees and also with Syrian refugees and children. In fact, we've been in Lebanon working in a project together with Autonomous University of Barcelona, with the psychologist team, who are evaluating the impact of our work with the children with post-traumatic stress and all kinds of situations. And we are working on this kind of project right now.
Okay, good luck with that. And you, David?
For me, I'll try to make a field busy before the end of the year. I think maybe Niger, Mali, maybe Venezuela. But for us, the challenge is to continue working, and mostly in places with, because sometimes we have a level of visibility when we talk about migrants or refugees in the Mediterranean, but for us the big battles are still in Syria, in Yemen, in Central African Republic, in Congo, in Darfur, some places that maybe they don't have enough media attention, but certainly is where big deployments operate. And it's challenging environment, so just to be there and to continue to deliver, I think that's enough challenge for us.
Well, good luck with that, and thank you for coming.
Thanks to you. Thanks.
And thank you, Gary, for coming.
It's a pleasure, Marcela. Thank you.
And Marc, I'll see you in a bit.
See you in a bit, yeah.
Well, as you know, in this show, we encourage you to practice listening to spoken English, but also to learn new words and expressions. That's why we offer you a series of tips related to the main topic of the day. And it's time to offer you the first tips by our English teacher, Becca Bardaca from International House, Barcelona. Here they are.
Hi guys. There's an exceptional human being out there who took the time to define the adverbs of indefinite frequency. The results are kind of amusing, so let's have a look. The first adverb is never. Now, never means not one time, and therefore its frequency value is 0. I never fly planes. No idea how to fly a plane. But imagine I did know how to fly one, but I only did this as an exception in my life. Then I would say hardly ever or rarely. 5%. Cool. If I did this slightly more often than hardly ever or rarely, then I would say I seldom fly planes, whose frequency value is 10%. We can increase it though. I love hamburgers. I could eat hamburgers all the time, but I try to limit myself so I don't become a burger addict. And therefore, I'd say I eat burgers occasionally, 30%. If I wanted to increase that to around 50%, then I would say I sometimes eat hamburgers. If I wanted to talk about something that I do more often than sometimes, then I would use often or frequently, as in, I often go to the swimming pool after work. 70%. Not bad, but we can do better. When I go to the swimming pool after work, I normally have a coffee, 80%. And with my coffee, I usually have a biscuit or a croissant, something to give me energy, which equals 90%. Now, if I wanted to increase that to the maximum and talk about something that I do every time without fail, then I would say always, as in, I always brush my teeth in the morning, 100%. That's it, guys. There you go. Until next time. Bye.
The Shamrock Vagabonds are a young band, but they make wonderful music, and they will be playing live on the Weekly Mac. Don't miss them.
stolen paradise. Students talk about it. Students talk about it. Students talk about it.
American writer and social activist Robert Black once wrote, "The reinvention of daily life means marching off the edge of our maps." This clearly implies breaking routines, and behind this statement, there is a whole conception of existence, although there are people who don't feel comfortable when having to improvise. This is exactly the subject we're going to talk about in this week's Face Off, routine versus improvising. And we have here with us today Patricia Scalona and Donna Gatiernan. Welcome to the Weekly Mag.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you very much. Guys, tell me, are you for or against routine?
I'm for routine in terms of if you're a busy person, it helps you out. It helps you organize your life so that you can actually enjoy your free time. And it's been proven also by many studies that routine helps out people with mental health issues as well. So for all of that, I'm for it. Looking at Donna's face, no, that's definitely not the case.
I think he doesn't agree.
No, man, I think like being for routine is being like for breathing. Like, yeah, I mean, we go to sleep, we go to work, there's all of that stuff. But I don't know. You just mentioned mental health right there. Yeah, psychiatrists often recommend finding a routine as a way to find your way back into normal life. So yeah, down here is the world of chaos where you're in mental disarray, and you get back up here, so you got a bit of routine. But like to engage in general spontaneity and to go up here is the realm of extraordinary people. You know what I mean? I think general routine might maintain society and a status quo, and that's very important for normal people like you two. But like for extraordinary people like me.
What the hell do you know about us, man?
But normal people like me too. But for the odd extraordinary person that comes to fruition and moves society forward, I mean, by spontaneous action is how they do that.
I think he just called us like normal as
boring,
something negative.
Whatever.
Yeah, and he thinks of himself as being like extraordinary or a genius.
No, I think of myself as being obliged to make a joke from time to time. I'm more normal than any of you guys. As a matter of fact, I'm probably less than normal. I would strive for a routine in my daily living, but that's just because I'm trying to get up to a place where I can keep up with regular life. But I think people who have truly changed the world, you take your like Rosa Parks, or they call him the tank guy from Tiananmen Square, or
so are you sure that Rosa Parks that you just mentioned, how do you know she didn't have a routine?
Well, she did. Her routine was to sit at the back of the bus.
And she did go to work every day, and all that she did was...
But you just
break her routine.
No, what she did was
she broke her routine. She said, fuck this, excuse me, I'm gonna sit at the front of the bus.
No, but that's not the same. I mean, you're comparing spontaneity and improvisation with inspiration. It's not the same thing. What she got struck by inspiration at that point, but that came from a routine. That came from a build-up. Yeah. Wait, I'm trying to make my point. That came from a build-up. So she saw every single day that she had to sit back. She saw whatever was happening in her life and whatever was happening to society. She saw every single day and injustice that it meant. Yeah. So it was all build-up. So it all came from routine. Like Picasso said at some point, you're talking about geniuses. Picasso said at some point that inspiration has to find you working, and to find you working, you have to have that routine. Many writers that I know do exactly the same routine every day.
Yeah, actually, I must say I know writers who wake up at 6 a.m. every day, and they have this really strict writing routine. And you can't argue that, writers, there are many genius writers who did that, so.
No, I'm not arguing with any of that. I'm saying all of those people found a way that the world works for them, and that's what everybody is searching for. They're like, and if you get there, that'll make you really happy. The world works for me. Let's keep it like this. Let's get into routine. If the whole world gets into a routine and the whole world gets too perpetual, the fact of the matter is it never changes. You look at any act of inspiration, and to actually say that it's spontaneous, you're not actually saying anything. You're like, oh, it changed the world. Of course it was a spontaneous act. Of course it just came out of nowhere, because that's the thing that moves the world forward. Like we continue, like if you look at any regime certainly in the last 100 years, right? You've got like a bunch of people that have said, the world is too chaotic. Let's try and establish a routine. But to try and establish too hefty a routine deadens the human soul. Like the kind of routine that that is basically normal life is one thing, but then
but I mean, being spontaneous is really not compatible with having a routine.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I mean, it's like everything. Common sense comes into play here. You were talking about crazy people and you know, dictators, you know, trying to establish a routine in like the most extreme way. I'm not talking about that, and most common sense people won't think about that.
So
and
what's the actual argument about then?
I'm trying to get there. Will you shut up for a second and let me speak? Oh God, this man.
Say something. Say something I don't agree with, and say something to disagree with me. Come on.
I'm trying to say that. I mean, it's good for you to have a routine because it allows you to be spontaneous as well. You know, at some point you can be happier about the fact that you were struck by inspiration and just, you know, this day that you were supposed to be working, you're out on the street with your friends or drinking yourself to happiness after a day on the beach. And you're not supposed to be doing what you were supposed to be doing. But that only happens when you have established routine and you always do more or less the same, and it helps you keep yourself focused. And then that day, when you decide to do something spontaneous, it's so joyous. So that's why.
Also, the lack of routine might create, in some cases, you know, anxiety, and anxiety doesn't lead to creativity or spontaneity. What do you think?
Well, I think, yeah, anxiety is generally caused in people
by chaos,
by a lack of by chaos, by a lack of routine. That's the realm down here. But like what I'm saying is that basically routine is the default position for functioning people. So that's why I said at the start, like arguing on that plane, like on the plane of like everyday regular life, for routine as a concept is like saying you should, is like making an argument for breathing. Of course you need to breathe. Or 3 square meals a day. Of course there should be 3 square meals a day. But where I'm going at it from is like on the higher plane of ideas. And I'm saying that when it comes to that, routine will have everybody standing still in a very nice way, and we're all happy like that, right? As a grand philosophical idea. But then it's the odd bit of spontaneity that'll make society step forward slightly.
I think it's getting very philosophical.
Very.
Are you
I think it's the only way to argue.
It's the only way he could find like real arguments for this, because secretly he agrees with me. So yeah, let him do that.
You should take a look at my daily agenda and see how much.
But I mean, come on, Donica, don't you have any routines at all?
Oh, I've loads of them.
Such as?
For example, my new one is I go to spin class because I injured my back. But I used to go like running every single day. But like...
At what time?
About 6:30.
So that was a routine, right?
Oh yeah, but I mean, if you think that I'm arguing against the general concept of routine and that I think there should be no routines anywhere in society, then I'm basically arguing against society, which I'm obviously not doing. But what?
Here I am thinking you were an anarchist.
Normal, and you call yourself extraordinary. So
that was a joke, and you both know it.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure.
You didn't get it as a joke?
Yeah, he always jokes. I think he was joking.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
as a matter of fact,
if I could Irish humor.
Irish.
Let's cut him some slack. Yeah.
If I could like strive to be as normal and have a routine as you two highly functioning looking people, believe me, that is what I'm working towards, you know? I would say the only thing that would make me extraordinary is my slight lack of routine, where I could use a little bit more of a one. But that is not to say that I'm backing down from my point. I think routine is a very good default position for society, but I think without acts of spontaneity throughout history, there'd probably be no progression.
Again, you're confusing spontaneity with inspiration. It's not the same.
But what about that? About this theory that a routine, having a regular routine, gives you more confidence, and being self-confident helps you to be creative and spontaneous. And without that self-confidence, you can't be.
Basically, what we're describing here is the Taoist notion of the yin and the yang. That is exactly what's going into play here. So like you got order and chaos in the middle of a bit of order, you got a bit of chaos in the middle of a bit of chaos, you got a bit of order. What I'm saying is that, like, if I had to pick two, neither can work without the other, really. But it's fun to argue.
But I mean, what about a balance, you know, between routine and improvising?
Well, yeah, the yin and the yang.
Yeah. You have to allow yourself to improvise from time to time and to be spontaneous. But that comes from routine. That comes from having certain habits and certain things that you do every day, and certain work that you actually, you know, accomplish at some point.
Okay, guys, I think time's up. I think in this case, Danica, I agree more with Patricia. But I kind of agree with you as well a little bit. You know?
Thank you.
So I think there's a balance between, you know, improvising and routine.
To be honest, agree with the second part of what you said. That yeah, I would honestly agree with both of us. But I think this nice little argument illustrated exactly why a perfect balance between the two would be all right. I think it was a lovely, productive talk.
I think that summarizes it really well. Thank you for coming, Danica.
Thank you for having me.
Patricia.
Thank you.
Until next time. And we're going to take a few minutes off, but we leave you with a quote from the Nobel Prize winner, John Steinbeck, who made the following statement about routine in his novel East of Eden. We'll be back in a few minutes. People who usually follow us know that we love to bring musicians to play on our stage. And today, our guests come from the Gracia district in Barcelona. They are called the Shamrock Vagabonds, and they are Luis, Ellie, and Gina. Well, guys, welcome to the Weekly Mag.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Well, the Shamrock Vagabonds, can you tell me why this name?
It's because we met years ago playing in the squares of Gracia.
Yes.
And that's why Vagabonds. And Shamrock is because we have a lot of Celtic cultural influences, and we love Irish music and Americana.
I see. So Shamrock is the Irish for. What does it mean actually?
Yeah. It's like a clover,
like
a leaf of clover.
Which is supposed to bring good luck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So with this name, do you feel that you guys have had good luck so far?
Yes, of course. The day we met each other, it was...
A lucky day.
Yes. Yeah, because we connected a lot and very fast. So it was like, oh, we're very lucky. Yeah, we felt like that.
Excellent. You've had a lot of gigs, no? Since then, a lot of concerts.
Yeah. Actually, last summer it was, I don't know how many concerts, but all the summer, every week, every weekend. We have a lot of work here in Catalonia, so we feel lucky, and it was really fast to get that. So yeah, and in the future, let's see what happens, but we have other projects. We're gonna go outside, so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so far you've basically performed covers. Tell me a little bit about your influences, artists that you like, styles that you like most.
I think we have similar influences. We love classics, and our covers are not maybe actual songs. Sometimes there are some that we like, and then we cover in our style, which is like really genuine here. It's not common to have this style here. So, but we used to play songs like from, I don't know, Dire Straits, classics of rock and roll. So, yeah, and we have very different options in our set list, every show we have. So, yeah.
I see. And since today our main topic is daily routine, how much routine do you have in your lives? I mean, is there a lot of space for routine while you're having gigs around the city or outside Barcelona?
Yes. If you play every weekend for the last year, almost every weekend, and you're bound to have a strong routine, because I feel like people think that being a musician is always joyful and everything is funny.
And it's
but
not?
No, it's not like that. You have to pay the bills, you have to do invoices, you have to negotiate budgets, you have to drive for hours, set the stage, and so on. You know, so there is a lot of work behind that no one knows, and you have to do it every day. So the key is to divide the work. Maybe each one of us is leading a certain part of the work, so we know that the work is doing properly, regardless of the distance that we are not living together. You know.
What's your favorite way to escape routines?
Well, normally when we aren't gigging, we take the opportunity to spend days outside the city or creating our music and composing.
So you are preparing a new album?
Yes.
With your own compositions?
Yes.
That's good news.
Yeah, maybe next year.
What will it be like, style-wise?
Well, people that knows us, it's like they know our style, so we'll be like American folk. But our strength
it will be in English.
Of course, in English.
All in English.
Yeah. Our strength is voices, so we're focused on harmonies, and we don't know exactly which instruments will complement us, but it's just a complement. I mean, we're focused in the voices, so what we know is that we want to make an album with good harmonies and folk, like guitars, violin, but very organic. It's what we know, but let's see, because we have a lot of time, so you never know what's gonna
Well, actually you don't live on music because you've got other jobs. Yes, I'm right, no?
Yeah.
What jobs are you doing when you're not playing?
I'm a nurse.
You're a nurse, okay.
I'm working on a hospital.
Okay.
I am an audiovisual worker.
And I am an engineer.
Okay, very different jobs.
Yes.
And you play so many instruments. I mean, I was amazed to see how many instruments you guys play. So I guess for that, in order to play that many instruments, routine is crucial, no? What do you need? What do you need to get to play well so many instruments?
We're not
what
experts.
Qualities, I mean?
I think it's not that we're experts in each instrument you mentioned, or you know, that we play, but it's just that we use these instruments to complement the voices, as I said. So if we want to be very, very good at this, we should be studying all day, but it's impossible because we work in other jobs. So what we do is we have a lot of instruments. We use it depending on the occasion, but we're not focused on this. You know, we're focused on the voices because it's our strength.
I see.
think it's our
Okay. I suppose you spend a lot of time together. So tell me, is there a certain routine that surprised you? Yeah, from your mates, I mean, from your colleagues. Something they do that you found surprising?
Well, I think that we know a lot.
Yeah, we know
you know each other too well,
yes.
now? Yeah. You got used to each other. Nothing surprises you anymore.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, maybe there are some things that one day you didn't think about someone, but I think there is nothing that can surprise us a lot, because we spend a lot of time together, because we are very good friends.
That's good.
A part of the band, we're very good friends, so we share a lot of time playing and living. So
you mentioned you're preparing a new project. So you said it's going to come out probably next year, yes? Who is composing? Or what's the composition routine or composition process?
We're not a common band in that point, I think, because we have 3 voices. There is no leader, and there is no lead singer, which is not common. So each of us is composing since we started playing music, and now we're trying to make these songs in common. Like I don't know, they are growing up together. I mean, in the start it was like some lyrics or something. Now we're trying to create together all these all songs that we have individually. So it's like we're working all together.
Okay. Do you like improvising? Yeah.
No, I don't like improvising.
You're more for routines, right?
Yes, but yeah, because I have studied classic music, so there's no.
I see.
Yeah.
But the way you guys met and decided to create this band was total improvising, no?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because we live in Gracia, and Gracia, all people is singing in the streets, so it's like suddenly appeared. I mean, if I can explain you how this band actually started, it was like we were singing in the streets, and then a man came and said,
yes?
"Oh, I like what you do. I want you to play in my bar." But we said, we're not a band. And he said, "Okay, let's make a band from this moment, and you can play in my band."
And who was this man?
Well, he's a friend of mine.
Okay.
Well, it's a friend of ours now. Yeah.
Well, he was very inspired then.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell me, what are you going to perform today? What are you going to play?
Stolen Dance by Milky Chance.
Stolen Dance. Okay. So, while the Shamrock Vagabonds are getting ready to perform on our stage, we are going to review some tips on idioms and popular expressions. Today, of course, they are related to daily routines. Take note.
So how do you start your day? If you're anything like me, it's the alarm clock that starts my day. And what do? I press the snooze button once, maybe twice, to give me 5 or 10 minutes more of precious, precious sleep. I eventually do have to get up though, and I go into the kitchen, but I don't have time to make a big breakfast. I don't have time to cook up a storm. So I just decide to leave the house and get a bite along the way. Just a small snack, something just to get me through the morning. So I get to work, say hi to all my colleagues, and sit down and start answering my emails. I say hi to my friend Sarah, who we have a special understanding with. I'm on the same page with my friend. Anyway, my boss comes in, and she needs help with a special spreadsheet that she's having trouble with, an Excel sheet that she can't understand. So I try to say, I'll try and help you as much as I can. I'll give it a whirl. Anyway, I try and look and see if I can help her with this Excel sheet, and there's nothing I can do. So I say, Sarah, can you help me? Can you give me a hand? She says, yeah, sure, no problem. And I say, thank you. You've just made my day. You've made me so, so happy. Anyway, to say thank you to my friend Sarah, I decide to take her out for a drink after work. And we get along very well, but after just one, I say, look, Sarah, you know I'm not a night owl. You know I like to go to bed early. So I say goodbye, and I say, I'm going to go and hit the sack. I'm going to go and sleep now because I have a big presentation tomorrow morning, and I need my rest. Thank you.
I want you by my side, so that I'll never feel alone again. They've always been so kind, but now they brought you away from here. I hope they didn't get your mind. Your heart is too strong anyway. We need to fetch back the time they have been stolen from us. and I want you. We can break it on the floor and never dance like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on till the boogie all night long. Stolen paradise, shouldn't talk about it.
Cold winter for me, no sun shining anymore. The only thing I feel is pain, because the absence of you, suspense controlling my mind. I cannot find a way out of here. I want you by my side, so that I never feel alone again. I want you, we can break it on the floor and never dance like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on till the boogie all night long. Stolen paradise, shouldn't talk about it, 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 dance like this before. We don't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it. I want you, we can break it on the floor, never dance like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on, feel the boogie all night long. Stolen paradise, shouldn't talk about it. I want you, we can break it on the floor, never dance like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on, feel the boogie all night long. Stolen paradise, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it.
Coming soon, the routines of some of the greatest celebrities in history in our Here and There section.
And it's time for the last language tip of the day about daily routine, coming from our Australian teacher Tim Guinea. Take note.
So today we're talking about daily routines, and here are some phrasal verbs in my daily routine. So I'm quite a busy person, and I find I get quite tired when I get home. So sometimes I find myself on the couch, maybe watching TV, and I doze off or I fall asleep. So when you doze off, you fall asleep, and it's usually without intention. Another time when I'm known to doze off is in the morning when my alarm goes off. Sometimes I fall back asleep again. And my biggest wish is to be able to sleep in. Now on the weekends I'm able to sleep in, and that means stay in bed as long as I want. But in the weekdays I have to get up, and there's always one thing I do first, and that is to have some coffee. Now my housemate that I live with is a very lovely person, and she always makes me some coffee. Now sometimes if I sleep in too long, well, I have to heat up the coffee, and that means reheat it, make it warm again so I'm able to drink it. Now I need my coffee because it gives me energy and it perks me up. So to perk up is to feel energetic and lively again. Now if I don't have my coffee in the morning, it's not a good thing. I have to say, my poor colleagues and my students, well, I hope they don't hold it against me. So if you hold something against someone, it means you have negative feelings towards them. And I can be quite mean in the mornings without coffee. So I make sure that I never run out of coffee. So run out is a phrasal verb we use when you don't have any left. So to make sure I never run out of coffee, well, I have to stock up on coffee. And where do I go to stock up or to buy coffee? Well, I go to the supermarket. So the other phrasal verb we can use is I go down to the supermarket. And speaking of, I think I'm going to go down to the supermarket right now. Until next time, I'll see you.
It's time to compare routines between countries in our Here and There section. And to do so, we have Matthew Tree and Marc with us. We start with Matthew. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
What's your daily routine like?
Oh God, yeah, I was afraid you'd... I work at home mainly, so I wake up at 7 o'clock, I read for between 1 and 2 hours, then I go back to sleep again, wake up again at 11 o'clock, have a shower, then I try and write, and then I go out and get myself a sandwich, come back, eat the sandwich, then I feel depressed after having eaten, try to write some more, and then I go out and do the shopping and prepare supper, and I go to bed around 12. I can't believe I'm actually explaining this to, you know, a wider audience than myself, but that's what I do.
Every day?
Every day, unless unless there's this program or unless there's something that I have to do outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us.
Yes, well, I have. You know, God.
Well, what about you, Marc? Are you a man of routines?
To be honest, my daily routine is not as interesting as Matthew's. But I'll tell you something, when I was younger, I think it's more interesting when I was younger back in Ireland, the daily routine we had was we had to wake up really early in the morning and we had to set the fire. We had to clean out the oven, set the fire every single morning so that we would have hot water to have a shower. And then we would have a big breakfast, and then I would head off to school.
So, Marc, this is the 20th century
I know.
we're in, right?
That's why I thought it was more interesting. I thought it was more interesting than my current daily routine. My current daily routine doesn't differ too much from Matthew's.
So I take it you were living like in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, exactly. And I guess that's why we're here. We kind of compare here and there. I wonder, do the same things here out in the middle of nowhere in Catalonia? I don't know. But my daily routine now is pretty much close to Matthew's, except for the...
Are you sure it's close
Except for
to
going back to sleep again at 10 o'clock in the morning. I go back to sleep around 12. And then I wake up again about 1 and I have my lunch. And then I head off to work, to school and that. But I have nothing strange or unusual. I guess walking the dog every single morning and afternoon.
It's what I was just going about to say, now that you have a dog.
Can be dangerous as well, yeah.
Yeah, let's not mention that. All right, so I know you've been in Mataró and asked around about people's routines.
I did indeed, and I mean, we have these visions of Catalonia from outside, no? And I guess when you watch this video, you'll see that the stereotype really does fit in this particular case. You'll see. Watch the video and you'll see about the daily routines.
Okay, let's watch it.
Welcome to Mataró. Today we're going to talk about daily routines. From our perspective abroad, Spanish and Catalans dance, fight bulls, make paella, and have churros for breakfast in the morning. I'm at least going to find out about one of those today. Let's go have some churros to start the day. Can I get 4 churros, please? Thank you, sir. I wonder, is this a daily routine of most people here? Churros. You have churros and chocolate for breakfast?
Yeah. I like it a lot.
Only when I'm here and with my family.
Do you have churros in the morning when you wake up?
Yes. We call them churros and jeringos.
Danny, what do you think? Does it go well for my daily routine? Sexy. Imagine it's your perfect day and you wake up, okay? What would you do? What would be the perfect start to your day, the perfect routine?
In the morning I go to the beach, play volleyball, 3-hour bath or something.
I think I just start with a really nice breakfast like churros or pancakes or...
Told you the churros were a good idea.
Yeah, churros and chocolate, that's the best thing.
That the sun says hello to me and churros.
I prefer to journey. Travel, yeah.
In the beach.
All day?
Yeah.
Relax in my house with my husband.
Wake up at 9 or 10.
Late.
And stay with my family and lunch together.
You like spending time with your family?
Yes, of course.
In Ireland we don't.
No?
No. We like to get away from the family as much as possible during the day. Which famous person used to work from 4 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then at noon go for a 10-kilometer run every single day?
Paulo Coelho, Murakami, or Clint Eastwood? Over to you, Marcela and Matthew.
Wow, that's a tough question. Can you repeat it?
Please.
If you haven't been paying attention, then no. But for you, yes. No. Basically, guy gets up in the morning and goes running, and then
No, wakes up in the morning, works,
and then goes for a run in midday. Yeah, that was it.
Yes.
Sorry. See, I wasn't even paying attention myself.
No, but I mean, who were the options?
The three options.
Murakami?
You had Murakami, Clint Eastwood, and Paulo Coelho.
Okay.
Okay,
Have
well,
an idea?
Clint Eastwood is nearly dead, so I don't think, we're not putting him on. I would go for, because he's also as mad as a hatter, he's a writer, so he can choose his own thing. I'd go for Paulo Coelho. It sounds like the sort of thing he would do.
That's a good guess. And you, Marcella?
Murakami.
Well done. 1-0 to Marcella. Looks like you're going to begin a losing streak again, Matthew.
Well,
story of my life, Mark.
Story of your life. 1-0. Yes.
No. Really, I mean, I just said it just to say something different from Matthew, to be honest. I had no idea.
He gets up, he works at like from 4 till whatever, 12 or so, and then he goes out and does a run, or he swims. I think he swims like 25 kilometers and things like this. Like, a guy's crazy into fitness.
Yeah, really fit. Great.
Good daily routine, isn't it?
Anyway, the people you interviewed in Mataró, very few of them actually mentioned work. So it's like they were all on holiday or something?
Well, to be honest, we didn't shoot during the week. We had to shoot on a Saturday, so I'm sure work was the last thing on their mind. But what I did find curious was the whole chocolate with churros thing.
Yeah, what was the thing with churros?
I tell you, my mother, when she comes here, she always wants to go for chocolate with churros in the morning. She thinks it's like something that everybody does here as a daily routine. And I thought to myself, let's go test it. Let's see if it really is true. And as you can see, everybody's eating churros. Even if it's a Saturday, that was their typical thing. I thought it was...
Because for me, churros is associated with a festival, no? Like the annual festival of a city, and then they've got these churros and
the churrerias, no, these stops and stuff, yeah. So did I, but...
Yeah, for me it's like something festive, like... I don't know, once a year, twice a year, but not every week. Or
you can't argue with the facts, so the video just proves it.
Okay,
yeah, but it's a Saturday, which reminds me, many years ago when I was a young man in Barcelona, the only time we would eat chocolate and churros would be after having spent a whole night on the town. And these places, because these places open very early, and it was a traditional, there were whole queues of people who'd spent the whole night sort of dancing and drinking and making out or whatever, and they were there queuing for their chocolate and churros, and that's the time when I ate churros in the morning.
The people were very willing to participate. Maybe they were still, going from the night before. I don't know. I didn't ask them. Maybe you're right. Maybe you've actually hit it right on the head there.
Anyway, would you agree with the fact that we are supposed to acquire more routines with age? Or we become more obsessed with certain rituals or routines?
Well, it seems that Matthew has his routine
and
ritual.
When we get older.
I'm still very young, I don't know. No, the thing I strive for at the minute is exactly that. No, the daily routine, trying to, do things in sequence, but it never works out for me. I don't remember a day or 2 days in a row where I do the same thing. Some days I wake up at 7, other days I wake up at 10, some days I go to bed at 10, other days at 11. It's not as structured, as rigid as Matthew's.
I see.
Maybe I need a few more years to kind of get everything in focus.
Yeah. Did you notice that when Marcella talked about age, she automatically just looked at me?
I was very careful, then I moved.
Yes, and then you immediately turned to Marc. No, I saw that.
Because I know, I kind of agree with this. To be honest, at least in my case, that's true.
No, it depends. This week, for example, I've done lots of different things, and I've got a weekend where I'm doing all kinds of things that I would never normally do at the weekend. So there are breaks in my rigid routine, Marc. But
anyway, Matthew, I know you've did some research about the differences in certain routines in the UK, the States and Catalonia, and which are the conclusions?
Well, actually, it was Santi, our scriptwriter, who did the research, but I drew some conclusions.
You made it yours.
The information he sent was actually very interesting indeed. Like UK workers, for example, let's say office workers, they have to have a minimum of 20 minutes. A minimum of 20 minutes. As I remember it, when I used to work, a break for lunch, sorry, yeah. And it used to be 30 minutes. 30 minutes was the standard time. Whereas here,
in Ireland, yeah.
as we know, it can be between 1 and 2 hours. And I know people who live in places that are quite far out from the center of Barcelona. They come into work in the center of Barcelona and they have like 2 hours to kill in the middle of the day before going back to work. And their workday, of course, ends later. So by the time they get back to home, it's about 10 o'clock in the evening. You know, it's so crazy routines.
And there are people who have 2 hours for lunch, who live in Barcelona, for example, and they have time to go home, eat lunch, and have a nap. And they have a nap and they go back to work.
Yeah, so, I've lived the two of them.
So how would this be seen in the UK, for example?
Well, in the UK, a lot of people, in fact I have the exact figure here just in front of me, 54% of office workers have their lunch in front of their computer in the office, which strikes me as amazingly depressing, really. Whereas here, the first thing I noticed, I worked for a factory in Badalona, giving English lessons to all the people in the factory, and I noticed that the whole area was surrounded by these cheap restaurants. And I couldn't believe it for the first few weeks that the assembly line workers, the technicians, the secretaries, the bosses, they all went to these restaurants and had a 3-course meal with wine and coffee every single day from Monday to Friday. And I thought, Jesus, you know, this is like a kind of luxury. You know, in London, if you eat out at lunchtime, you queue in front of a sandwich bar, you know, and they slap a few things on bread and that's it. But these people were eating properly every single day, I thought, and cheaply, you know. I thought it was amazing.
That's a big difference between the UK and here, not the lunch. Yeah. Lunch has much more relevance here, probably than and in the UK, dinner is more important, no?
Exactly. Lunch is something you rush through.
Exactly.
Because you clock off at, you work from 9 to 5, 10 to 6, or equivalents of those figures, which means that you have a huge amount of time afterwards to do whatever you want.
Yeah, we've got big breakfasts, small lunch and big dinner. It's complete opposite to here. Here they have the coffee in the morning, then a huge lunch and a small dinner. It's kind of like the inverse, no? And the whole thing about the 2 hours off as well, I have to agree, it's madness. I mean, I used to drive in and out to work in Barcelona a couple of years ago, and I used to actually go to my car and have a siesta in the car.
In the car?
Yeah, because I had nothing else to do. So I would just lie in the car, put on music and fall asleep. And now I do the same thing, but I go home as well. So yeah, all of
That's
it
so
is true.
sad.
It is. It's almost as sad as you going back to bed at 10 o'clock in the morning.
No, that really is sad. You know, you've no idea how depressing that is.
Okay.
But no, there was one other thing I wanted to add, which is so weird about because of these different times. In fact, as we know at the moment, in Catalonia and I suspect in the rest of Spain, there's a kind of controversy going on about work times. You know, that they should be shortened and everything. But the weird thing is that as most people clock off around 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the UK, a lot of them then have the after-work drink with the people they've just spent all day working with. And I noticed this when I lived in London for a longish period in 2011. I was there quite a lot. And on Monday, you could go to the pub, nobody there. Tuesday, a little more people there. And this went on increasing until Friday. You could hardly get through the door because all these people were there, and you could tell that they were workmates. And I just thought, who would want to have a drink on a Friday evening with the people they've just spent the last 5 days working with? You know, I mean, don't they have any real friends? You know, I just sort of, I found it really, really odd. Whereas here, because people go home at 10 o'clock, you know, there's, if they have a drink, they have a drink with family or friends. Or
That's true, yeah.
Anyway, what's the thing that you hate most about your daily routine?
The thing I hate the most? I don't know.
Because
I don't know. Actually, that's a tricky question.
Isn't this what
I actually
you
love
asked
life.
the people you met in Mataró?
I did ask them that. I asked them what was the thing they hated the most, and I also asked them what their perfect idea was of what their perfect daily routine was.
Well, let's watch
Have a look
and
at the
see.
video and see. Yeah.
What do you do when you wake up? What's the first thing you do?
I take him and say to him good morning and sing a song.
Very nice. You sing
and
a
then
song?
We have a breakfast. Yes, every morning.
I work in a lab, in the microbiology lab, so I woke up in the morning, very early in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Sometimes I go to the gym, but most likely to go to the jacuzzi.
So you go to the jacuzzi in the morning?
Yeah.
Sleep and meet with friends, run in the playa.
Fuck in the beach.
Yeah.
What's the routine that you hate doing? The one thing you hate doing every day?
To clean my house.
You don't like cleaning your house?
No, I don't like. But I have to do.
I don't like go to work.
Having the tea at 5 o'clock every day.
You didn't like it, no?
No.
Wake up in the morning.
You just want to stay asleep?
Yes, but I have to go to school every day.
Which famous person looked in the mirror every morning and said, if today were the last day of my life, would I do what I'm about to do today? Steve Jobs, Mariano Rajoy, or Justin Bieber?
What was the question again?
Okay. A famous person looked in the mirror every morning and said, if today was the last day of my life, would I do what I'm about to do today? And the three options are Steve Jobs, Mariano Rajoy, or Justin Bieber.
Mariano Rajoy.
Steve Jobs.
2-0 to Marcela. You really are not on fire at all, Matthew.
Well, I'm inspired today.
Sorry?
I'm inspired today.
You are inspired,
that
doesn't,
happen a lot, but today is my day.
I wouldn't say that. And getting back to the question, what do I hate doing? I
Yes.
hate making my bed. And this is something ingrained in this country since I've arrived. Back in 2001, I remember I was staying in a apartment with 2 or 3 people, and one of them, he always made his bed every morning. The place was a mess, but he always made his bed. And it's like something that I think they enjoy doing here, is making beds.
Yes. And you don't?
No, not at all. When I was a child, I never did it, and now it's like I have to do it. Well, it depends on the day, but I try to. But it's
okay,
something
so
that I
let's
hate.
not enter Mark's bedroom before, I don't know, before afternoon.
Not
or
at
never.
all. No, never.
No, but it's funny. There is my partner said that there's a kind of thing about making beds here that it's kind of frowned upon if you don't
do it.
If you don't make your bed.
And if you don't, fold the sheet back perfectly.
But it's something that you are supposed to do, no?
Yeah, I guess. I'm like Mark. I don't do it. I just shut the door to the bedroom so no one can look in. You know,
okay,
it's easy. You know,
I've got to fluff the pillows, put the teddy bears on top, all of the 6 pillows on the bed. No, sorry.
Okay. And the one thing I hate would be
let's see.
I don't know if I hate it. I dislike it. Is constantly repeating the same instructions to my 2 teenage kids about not leaving wrappers on the dining room table, or plastic bottles lying around the floor, or dirty plates in the sink, which you can just pop into the dishwasher, not so difficult. But it's
What about making their beds?
Oh God, no, because if I don't do it, I'm not going to ask them to. But in fact, their rooms, that's sort of out of bounds. I don't go in there.
I guess that's a typical teenager thing.
Yeah, but I don't like it because it makes me feel bad as well, because I feel like the typical authoritarian father, this boring adult who's always repeating the same thing all the time. And they say that to me back, that, Dad, you're being so boring again. And of course, they're absolutely right.
And I suppose in order to require somebody to do something, you need to do it yourself first. So you need to be the example, no, before actually asking people to do something.
Oh, but I am, Marcela.
Well, you just said you don't do your bed. You don't make your bed, which is something that I am deeply concerned about. People making their bed.
I wouldn't worry about it, Marcella. It's more important.
Well, anyway, let's change the subject and move on to the next video that Marc has brought.
The third and final one, yes. Let's give it a spin. I've got one more question for you guys. Remember, Marcella, you're 2-0 up, right? And I have a couple more after that as well.
The Spanish people just always forget the passport on the luggage, and it's like, well, you are going on a cruise ship around Europe, so any kind of ID, that'd be great, but no, they have it on the luggage or at the bottom of the purse or whatever to make the line longer.
So they're not prepared?
No. Japanese people, the best, they are the best. They have all prepared, even if they don't speak English, they know how to proceed, they have all the things filled out, all the passport ready, everything ready. US people,
yeah.
When you ask them to collect the passport, because we have to go to a non-Schengen country, for example, they are very, I don't know, they have the passport like a treasure. They don't want to give it to you, because the passport is like, oh my God, if you lose my passport, I'm done. I'm the best nationality in the world, so I can lose my passport.
What about Irish? I'm Irish. What are those people like?
Not so many Irish go on the ship cruises.
They're usually too drunk, no, to get on the...
Yeah, maybe.
This famous British Prime Minister used to stay in bed until 11 o'clock in the morning. That was his daily routine. And then he would proceed to drink for the rest of the day. Matthew and Marcella, who is it?
Who is
I will leave Matthew.
No, it's Winston Churchill.
Well done.
Without a doubt.
I agree.
Well, you can't just agree. You don't steal the point for that one.
You can't give me a point?
Okay, well, fair enough. If you agree, I'll give you half a point.
No, it's okay. I was joking.
Winston Churchill, yeah. He sounds a bit like you, no? He gets out of bed at 11 o'clock in the morning, proceeds to drink for the rest of the day, but you go back to bed at 10 o'clock in the morning and get back up at 12, right? Is there something British about that? Or?
No, it's I go to sleep at 11 and I get up around 12ish and then go back to work. Yeah.
This guy used to, imagine, he used to get up he used to sit in bed in the morning, read the papers, I think he used to eat.
Exactly, he wasn't sleeping until 11. No. He used to wake up early.
Exactly, yeah.
And read the papers and do work.
Have some meetings, I think.
Exactly.
I believe he even had meetings from bed.
Still in bed.
Yeah. And then he used to get up at 11. He used to have this routine where he would continuously drink through the whole day. And I don't know, did he smoke cigars as well? I'm not, maybe you know more.
He smoked cigars.
He smoked cigars.
And he drank brandy.
Brandy, yeah.
You know, he wasn't
How did he run the country on a daily routine like that?
Well, maybe that's the secret, but you know, behind World War II, he kept going.
He kept going.
You know.
He had a better daily routine than Hitler. Maybe.
We will fight them on the beaches.
Well, he was quite a character, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So actually I have a few more of these questions for you. At the minute, I think it's 2-1, right? Marcella, you're 2-1 up against Matthew. Okay, so a quick, I got 2 or 3 more of them, okay? So, every morning, before having a strong coffee, he or she personally counted out the 60 beans the morning cup required, okay? So I'll give you a choice. A, my favorite TV personality, Belen Esteban. B, a musical genius, Ludwig van Beethoven. Or C, another one of my favorite emperors, Napoleon Bonaparte.
I have no idea.
60 beans, counted out, ready for the cup of coffee.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't think Belen Esteban is maybe intelligent enough to have a compulsive disorder.
Or to count to 60.
Or to count to 60.
60, yes. I would go for someone who's crazy artist, maybe a little compulsive, Beethoven.
What do you think, Marcella?
To be honest, I don't really know this time. Well, I have no...
If we were to play Russian roulette and I put a gun to your head, would you say A, B or C?
I don't know. B?
Okay, both of you are correct. Well done.
Well done.
Well done. All right, so we're 3-2, no? All right, next one. For years, okay, he or she ate virtually the same thing for every single meal, okay?
Bacon meal, you mean?
A meal. Every single meal, like lunch, breakfast, dinner, okay? Bacon and fried eggs.
That's breakfast, no?
Well, it's the meal of champions here, it seems. So, the A, okay, the writer, Patricia Highsmith, okay? B, Elvis Presley. Or C, my favorite Pope, John Paul II. I'm only joking.
Okay.
Okay, Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley. Good guess.
Elvis Presley, not because he ate cheeseburgers. In fact, he died eating cheeseburgers.
On the toilet,
On the toilet.
On the toilet eating a cheeseburger.
Okay.
No, I'd go for the Pope.
You go for the Pope?
Yes.
No.
Both of you are wrong. It was the writer Patricia Highsmith.
I was sure
I don't
it was
know
the
when
Pope.
It would be funny if it was the Pope. It would
Yeah.
be. But I don't know when she died. Imagine eating that much. That's a whole lot of cholesterol. That.
Really?
Oh, yeah. All right, and the last one, okay? What was the score? I forget.
3-2.
3-2. 3-2. Okay, last one, okay? So, he or she used to walk around naked in a ceremony he or she called air baths. Okay?
Air baths.
They didn't mind walking around the neighborhood, you know, no matter what the weather was, no clothes. Air bath, okay? So A, the singer Nana Mouskouri. B, the actress Sophia Loren. That would have been great if you were in the town now watching Sophia Loren walk around. And C, the politician and inventor Benjamin Franklin.
Okay, Sophia Loren?
That would have been awesome. What about you?
Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, unfortunately it didn't. It was a nice thought, but Benjamin Franklin, he did indeed walk around stark naked during most of the morning, I believe.
Which is maybe not such a nice thought.
Yeah, yeah. So there you go. So I think it's 4-3, 3-2, 3-3.
3-3.
I would have said.
3-3.
Whatever.
3-3,
So it's a draw. Yes.
It's a draw.
It's a draw.
It's a draw.
I don't think I would have counted
Well.
those 60 beans either
Okay.
after my coffee.
You have more questions? Maybe
No,
one
no.
last question.
That's it.
after?
That's the last one, I believe.
Well,
Well,
Hey,
hold on
I
a minute.
haven't lost. Great.
well, very good,
Fantastic.
Mark. Thank you so much. Very
No problem.
interesting
No problem.
questions. And now it's time for our first timers. Daily routine can sometimes be very stressful, and it's important to find some time for oneself to do things we really love. And this time we thought of a relaxing activity. We thought it would be nice for the first timer section. So our colleague from Lleida TV, Joan Cama, took Gaby Bone, who is from Venezuela but lives in Barcelona, to make some pottery in the very heart of the ceramic industry in Catalonia, La Bisbal d'Empordà. Let's see whether she enjoyed the experience.
The first written evidence that mentions the potter profession in La Bisbal d'Empordà dates back to 1511. Nowadays, the capital of El Baix Empordà is as well the capital of the ceramic industry. That's why we are here to get our hands a little bit dirty. Gabi, do you have a minimum idea of what are we doing today?
I have no idea. Never been in this little town before, so I have no clue.
Okay, so I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
This is the place where we are going today.
Okay.
Do you know it now?
Yes, we're going to make pottery.
Have you ever done it before?
No, never, but I'm so excited.
Are you excited?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. Anik will be our professor today.
Nice to meet you.
What are we doing today?
We will make a little bowl with a modeling technique. The name is pinching technique.
Are we getting dirty today?
No, just the hand a little with no.
Okay, where do we begin?
Well, we just take the bowl in one hand and with the thumb you will make a hole in the middle.
It's a little harder than I thought, but I think I'm doing great.
Is she doing great?
Yes, yes. Now with we will make pinching, and we make from the bottom to the top, and then we will turn a little and from the bottom to the top, but very slowly, not very hard at the beginning, just a little.
Lovely, like softly.
Softly, yes. And at the end, don't push a lot because it will crack.
I think you got it.
I think I got it, yeah. I think it's really fun, but at the same time, it's like somehow relaxing, and it's like a very smooth, enjoyable activity. It's like you have to be gentle with the clay because otherwise it could crack and you don't want that. and you have to like pay attention of the movements that you're making with your hands. So I think it's a very fine and delicate art.
It's nice like this.
Yeah.
We have to make two.
Listen, girls, I have already finished my teacup. Do you like it? No, obviously, just kidding. This was handmade by you, right? Why this whale tail?
Well, the whale, it's an animal I love because it inspires peace and tranquility when he dives into the deep ocean.
I was very surprised because I've never seen something like that before. I'm not an expert in ceramics, of course, this was my first time. But it's really original and very inspiring.
You made it, you can put your name and the date, what you want, or the name of someone you want to offer it. And you can put it here, or like the kids put them here, where you want.
Okay. I'm a kid spirit, so I'm gonna put it like this.
Anik, thank you so much for letting us live this experience.
Thank you to you to come. It was very nice to have you in this studio.
But I think Gabi is a little bit sad. Why?
I am, because I have to leave my piece of art because it's not ready yet, so I cannot take it home with me today. But hopefully, I think that maybe in a week I can make a tea in this cup at my place, right?
Yes, when it will be done, fired in the kiln and so, I will send it to you, and you can take your tea.
Take care of my baby.
Thank you so much, Anik. But Gabi, don't worry. I have an idea. You will see. Come. Gabi, you didn't get your cup, but you got your tea. Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun, yeah.
Now it's time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I got it.
Well, and thank you to Joan for this very nice piece of work from La Bisbal d'Empordà. Tell me, Marc, have you ever worked clay? And
No.
if yes, no?
No, I've worked wood. My father's a carpenter, so he's actually a very specific type of carpenter. They call it in Spanish an ebanista, in English. I'm not quite sure the name in English,
joiner.
actually. A joiner, yeah. So he would have worked very specifically with wood. I would have learned a little bit from him. But with clay, nothing.
What about other manual skills?
As I always joke with my brother was blessed with very small fingers, so he can do all of the electrical stuff and all the very small works around the house. I'm just good for destroying things and moving big, bulky things. Manual labor is not my thing.
Marc the Destroyer. Okay, and Matthew, what about yourself?
Well, the last time I worked with clay, I was about 6 years old, and I stopped there. And manual skills, it used to make me DIY. Used to make me very nervous. I was useless. But over the years, I learned how to put things onto walls. I can put almost anything onto a wall now. So.
Well, that's
Even
good.
the head of a stag, those stags with the big horns.
Yeah, but I
Well, that's too much, no?
Yeah.
I think. Well, I think he meant like more normal things like paintings and pictures.
That's right.
Well,
not dead animals.
What about reading? Reading is a very good and healthy habit, and I think Matthew has a few facts about reading routines.
Yes, I got these amazing figures from Santi, which prove that in Catalonia, they read nearly 6 hours per week. 6 hours per week, whereas the UK, it's down to nearly 5 hours a week. But that doesn't the problem is that in any given year in Catalonia, because I already had these figures, 32% of the population does not read one book from the beginning of the year to the end. And funnily enough, that includes 18% of Catalan students don't read a book.
So how do they pass their studies?
And the figure in the UK is 25%. So the only conclusion I can come to is that the people in Catalonia who do read are reading a hell of a lot more in terms of, like, it's less people reading more books, is what I'm saying in Catalonia, whereas in Britain it's more people reading less books. But because the reading index is higher in Britain than in... And the funniest statistic of all, the top 4 reading countries in the world, India, Thailand, China, the Philippines, and the 5th one is Egypt. And the top in Europe, it's Czech Republic, Russia, Sweden, and France are the countries that read the most.
Wow.
So
Very interesting.
that's up to about 90%. People read at least one book during the year.
Wow. At least for San Jordi.
Well, for San Jordi, they buy books. I don't know in Catalonia. I don't know how many people actually read them.
What about yourself, Marc?
Do I read? I do read. I find myself reading a lot of articles online and stuff like that, more than actual books themselves. And I do encourage my students. I said even reading articles and reading things like that is technically would be considered reading. But I'm not a reading fanatic. I would be nowhere near you guys in terms of reading actual books. Plus, there's a lot of applications now. Going back to the thing you were saying about Catalans not reading so much, there's a lot of applications that summarize a lot of the great works for you, and they read it out to you. So you're actually then not reading. You're listening to a summary of like War and Peace in 15 minutes. You know, like, so I guess that could be part of the reason why.
Well, I've got some good books for you, and
Awesome.
I think you'll like them. So next time I'll bring you one.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, thank you so much for coming.
No,
and
it's a
see you guys next week.
Yep.
Certainly.
Well, so much for today's show. One last minute to tell you that you can follow us on social networks on @TheWeeklyMagTV. And now I leave you with a quote by American writer, historian and philosopher Will Durant. He became best known for his work, The Story of Civilization. We'll be back next Saturday, and meanwhile, remember, keep your English up and running.
Shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, I want to. We can break it on the floor, never dance like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on, feel the boogie all night long. Stolen paradise, shouldn't talk about it, I want you. We can break it on the floor, never dance like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on, feel the boogie all night long. Stolen paradise, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it.